Afternoon, everybody. Hope you're all doing okay. It's week 4 in the Big Brother house, isn't it? It's all a bit bizarre. And I think there's quite a few people that haven't been on one of our webinars, I think, on today's session. So welcome. The main thing, really, I think that the Chamber's been doing, like most of you, is just getting ourselves as comfortable as possible and all fully functioning, working from home. We have obviously launched our webinar programme, and we were tinkering with it for a while. We think we've kind of got ourselves to where we need to be now. So 4 webinars a week, and this one obviously is the kind of the general networking for members to kind of come and share what they are doing, but also get the chance to kind of hear from other people and then just talk over some of the key issues as we're hearing about government support and other things. On a Tuesday evening is our guide to, and this week it's a guide to communications. Last week was guide to finance. So if you missed that, then you can go and have a look at that on our YouTube channel. Some really interesting stuff came up in the cash flow one last week. On a Wednesday, it's our one that's really aimed at supporting people. So we started that with a mental health and well-being session. Then we've done a kind of a virtual working and supporting your people remotely, and then motivation is this week's one, and then our Thursday session is all about business support, and that's either been listening to existing members talk about the challenges and the way that they've adapted, or it's been aimed at looking at things like the government furlough schemes and the business interruption loan schemes, and just trying to give some advice. So that's the way that we're structuring our webinars, and it's been brilliant actually. It's been nice to kind of connect with people and get them to give us feedback. So this one in particular today is really should be as interactive as possible. What I'll do is kind of go around and invite everybody just to jump in and say a bit about what they're doing, how they're finding it, and if they've got any issues in particular. And very often it'll be somebody else on the call that answers it rather than the Chamber having the answers for everybody. So it's been a really good session. I don't know if you've got any cake with you, whether you've chosen to bring your Easter egg in with your coffee, but you're all very welcome. We've been doing a lot of talking to government and a lot of influencing, and just trying to make sure that all the issues we're hearing are being fed back to government, because they are listening and they're changing. When we were feeding back about some of the issues businesses were finding on the things like the business interruption loan scheme and the personal guarantees and other things, then the government were able to work with the banking industry to encourage that to be kind of loosened slightly, and the personal guarantees for any funding under 250,000 has been removed across most of, if not all of, those lenders. So there's all of that going on, and then we're just trying to look at our own business, adapt to support as many members and actually non-members as possible at the moment. And I'm involved in a call 3 times a week where we're getting together the local authorities and Business Gateway and Scottish Enterprise, FSB, just a bunch of different people that are trying to listen to what is going on. We're hearing about how quickly the grants are coming out of the local authorities, which is really good. And then just trying to, so if there's any issues that they're finding, then we can kind of take that out to businesses and try and just smooth the way with a lot of that. So yeah, interesting, very interesting times. We also launched a Partners for Business programme with our Platinum and Enterprise partners. So our partners are taking part in our webinars. They are writing articles for our new A View from the Bridge piece on our website, and also are going to be mentoring businesses. So we're saying to any business that's looking for some short and sharp mentoring around what's going on with them and their current business at the moment, just to get in touch. So yeah, people say you think going into home working is going to be like having a holiday, but it couldn't be further from the truth, could it? And I guess we're the lucky ones that can keep on working, because I know that there's a lot of people that are not in that position. So yeah, while it might be sunny outside and we're stuck inside, at least we're keeping busy. So what I'm going to do is just invite everybody in, just for 2 or 3 minutes, just to kind of update us a bit on what's going on for you, and hopefully then at the end we'll have a bit of time just for a bit of an open dialogue. But when it's your turn, and I'm just going to do this in alphabetical order by your first name. So we'll just, if I could just get you to unmute yourself, and if you've got a webcam, put your video back on again as well, just so that we can see and hear you. And I'll stay on until I know that you're able to be heard, and then I'll get out of the way. So Alistair Booth, you're first up. If you would like to unmute yourself and just introduce yourself and tell us what's going on.
Great, thanks, Alison. Yeah, Alistair Booth from the HR booth. So as it says on the tin, we provide HR support. So it has been a really kind of challenging time for myself and the team. Just over the last kind of 4 weeks or so, we've been kind of supporting a lot of clients across the whole of Scotland, just around kind of layoffs, furlough, helping them kind of manage the situation as best they can. We've kind of found the last few days is kind of quieting down a little bit, so it's probably become a little bit kind of normal. I think most businesses have kind of now furloughed, and with the kind of latest advice out last week from the government just around the job retention portal scheme being open next week, we're just helping businesses, you know, get ready for that, and helping with the kind of paper trail, audit purposes, and that kind of thing. So it's kind of settled down a little bit, but yeah, it has still been pretty frantic. Other things that we're kind of working on is we're just obviously conscious that a bit of a downturn with some of our clients. So for us to just kind of still add value, we've kind of been doing some webinars as well. And I guess one of the good things about furlough is that employees can still participate in workplace training, so it's a good way for businesses to still develop their team. So even, you know, joining things like this is great, and some of the events that you guys are hosting. So we're actively trying to promote that with our clients, just to take advantage of that time, because I guess once the business reopens, the last thing they want to do is be taking teams off to do some training. They really want to hit the ground running. So it's a great time to try and develop their people at the minute through some of the online kind of platforms that are available. And we've also seen a wee opportunity potentially. So some of the businesses are still functioning, even things like kind of doing welfare meetings and long-term sick cases. We're able to kind of leverage technology a little bit to support our clients with that, which has been quite good. That's kind of new territory for us. So we are kind of hoping that if we can just kind of survive the next 2 or 3 months, that might kind of create opportunities kind of more nationwide for us, because you don't need to just be kind of covering kind of Fife and Dundee as we're, you know, predominantly doing at the minute. It can be kind of further afield. So we're hopeful that we can use that to our advantage moving forward. But yeah, happy to help any the members of the chamber as well. If they've got any questions on furlough or any HR issues, then please reach out.
Brilliant, thank you. Andy Taplin, you're up next. You want to unmute yourself?
Hi there, everybody hear me?
Hi.
Here at Interface Blue Koon, we've been quite busy. Obviously, we're a website design company, graphic design, etc., and we've been busy supporting all our clients around the UK, really. Quite a mixed bag, lots of dental practices who unfortunately can't work at the moment. So we've been quite interested in supporting these businesses that don't have any income. And the way we're supporting them is just being flexible, basically. Things hopefully will change over the next few weeks for them, because everybody needs dental care. And their websites are there just giving information out to various, to their patients on how to look after themselves when they can't visit the dentist, if managing pain, etc. Other websites as well, all going well. We're just trying to support clients in getting everything done for them, really. And we find a lot of clients are reflecting on what they can do when we're coming out of this. You know, sort of almost, this is like a reset button for a lot of them. So I think very exciting times for when we get away from all this. But it's bringing a little bit of hardship for some of our clients. Luckily, we're still one of the businesses that are operating quite well, and you know, still contributing to the GDP of the country. We have done one thing which we're trying to get out, which is dundeedirectory.co.uk. If anybody wants to go there, anybody knows a small business who's struggling getting their products out to people at this time, it's aimed at Dundee, Broughty Ferry and North Fife, for smaller businesses that don't have a presence online and have missed the boat, so to speak. It's just a place where they can get listed, where people can find out how they can order from them, whether it's a takeaway, whether it's some groceries. It's just very, very simple, and it's free. We're not charging for it. We've just done it so that we can get the word out there, basically. That's me.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's great. Okay. Next up is the star of this week's In Your Shoes, Dan Cargill. Dan, over to you.
Hi, Alison. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Good stuff. Yeah, thanks for that. So yeah, Dan, I work for 4G Scotland. We are a mobile communications company that work with O2, EE and Vodafone. So I suppose the first couple of weeks were rather manic for us, supporting a lot of our customers with their home working needs. Members of staff who potentially didn't have a mobile phone before that needed something, being working at home, and also we had a mobile broadband offer. So those who had poor home broadband, they could use a mobile SIM and a router that would support their home working needs. So yeah, the first couple of weeks for us were really busy trying to help with setup and lots of customer and client queries. So that definitely kept us busy. I suppose that's kind of started to settle down now. Most people are kind of into the swing of things a little bit, or as much as they can be. So from our business perspective, I think it's relatively been business as usual. We are seeing different mentality when it comes to mobile now. So a lot of the customers that we had that are looking at their contract end dates being April and May are talking about 12-month contracts, keeping the handsets they've got, not splashing out on the new fancy dancer iPhone, that sort of stuff. It does have an impact on us in a slightly negative fashion if they decide to not go for a 2-year option. To be fair, we are suggesting that for some businesses with the position they're finding themselves in, but we work on a commission base through the network. So if a customer only goes for 12 months, then we would receive less money in that term than if they went for a 24-month deal. So there is a bit of a shorter term impact on us in that regard. On the flip side of that, what is interesting is I've had a couple of new businesses come to us that wanted some support in trying to consolidate. It's not something they've really considered very much before, is their mobile phone costs. You know, is it working for them properly? Is there places that they can cut down? Do they need the number of lines they've got? All this kind of stuff. So there's actually been a couple of new businesses that have come across our bow in the last couple of weeks. So that's quite good. We moved banks about 6 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago. So we've been working with them with regards to the business interruption loan to see what we can do there and see whether that's something that can support us in the short term. So those conversations are ongoing and we're working with the bank there. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it. We are doing a bit of a rebrand. We had looked at potentially bringing on a new member of staff, which we've put on hold for the short term. But yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag, I suppose, really. There's some good, there's some bad, as probably everyone's feeling at the moment. But yeah, fun and games. I think that's me.
Brilliant. Okie doke. Thank you. Jerry Higgins, your turn. Remember, unmute yourself, Jerry.
Yeah, I should be unmuted.
That's you.
Yeah. Sorry, I've just arrived just now. I don't know if you saw me popping in and thought, no, okay. So
no, I'm just doing it in alphabetical order. Sorry. Oh. So now you feel like you've just arrived and it's your turn already.
Excellent. That went quickly.
Get your breath. Get your cake down your neck if you're enjoying your cake, and then it's your go.
You guessed. Not much change since last week. I'm just finishing up my project that I'm working on now, and we'll see how things kind of develop in the next week. As I said last week, I think the only kind of thing that I've seen that's kind of encouraging for me anyway is the fact that people do seem to be doing more homework for the future and looking at what they're going to do in recovery. So I've had a few conversations over the last few days about obviously companies thinking about going international and what we can do to support them when it comes to when they get there and dealing with the business culture or dealing with the actual business environment if it's a country that I know quite well, that I've worked in or lived in. So yeah, just again trying to keep positive and trying to push back the opening of the fridge until later and later in the evening. But other than that, that's about it.
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much. That's great. Jeff Lockhart, you want to come in and unmute yourself and introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about what's going on?
Thanks, Alison. You hear me okay?
Sure can.
Excellent, good. Jeff Lockhart here, St Andrews Management Centre. We are an accredited provider of learning and management training. So the first thing that happens when the COVID restrictions came down is all public events came to a fairly quick and grinding halt. We have still been able to offer some of our international trade consultancy through the online side, which has been good because obviously Brexit, that big word that used to scare us so much before the COVID came along, is still just around the corner and people have to be prepared for that. Our training side, we've still been incredibly busy, not so much maybe in delivery, but in the supporting activities going around the coaching and the general assessment. However, we have been approached now by a number of our international clients to say, look, we need to have the online access more quickly than we originally scheduled. We had it down as an activity for Q3, Q4 this year, and always kind of planned across. And we'd kind of given the thought that with Ramadan just about to start, there was not really going to be much coming from the Middle East sector. However, that's actually been incorrect. It's come at a faster pace. The greatest challenge has been the fact that we were due to move offices on the 1st of April, appropriately enough. So we are now between a storage site and a half-decorated office. So not ideal, but in the scope of things, not a killer. The team have been absolutely phenomenal in terms of comment for anyone, I guess. If you can keep your team and the spirits high, then I think you can achieve an awful lot more. It's all about developing and encouraging that resilience, that adaptability we found. And I'm really proud of people I've put through. And there must be an awful lot going through an awful lot of hardship, not just necessarily financially, but through working alone, having been stuck at home, for example. So as you said at the start, Alison, home working is not all it's made out to be. Optimistic, we've just had a brilliant year. Would have been a perfect year had we finished April. But now it's a question of just the first thing we did was open up the business plan and reposition to say, right, where are we going to go from here? What are the key achievables we're going to get for this year and for next year and the year after? But take it out 5 years and say, right, where's it going? So the focus is very much ahead of us and not looking back to say what's all gone wrong or how have things affected us. What can we do about it? What can we control it? And that's certainly helped for peace of mind, I'll give you that. But that's us.
Perfect, that's great. Okay, and next up is Jen Stewart. So if you are following A View from the Bridge, then Jen was the latest one that we published this week. So I would encourage you to kind of go and have a look at that too. So Jen, do you want to unmute yourself and come and say hello?
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's well. It's good to hear what's all going on locally. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Jen Stewart. I lead our team in Dundee for Johnson Carmichael. So really what we have been continuing to be busy with is really acting for our clients in terms of assisting them with a lot of kind of cash flow planning, forecasting. We developed an in-house tool which is on our website, so I would encourage anybody to have a look that is actually needing some assistance with just some of the cash flow modelling. It's actually incorporates all of the different government schemes that are applicable to businesses at the moment. So it's a 200-day forecast and allows you to essentially enter data in terms of furloughed employees, if employees have had pay cuts, etc. So we are doing a lot of this for our clients at the moment, also assisting them in terms of building the business cases for applying for the CBILS loan scheme from the banks. Delighted to say that we've actually heard some positive news on that this week, that actually people are starting to receive funding in that respect. So the grants are actually now, the loans are actually now being processed and banks are actually delivering on those, which is excellent to hear. The same with the grant applications. Again, we've heard that grant applications have been accepted, and we're starting to see movement there as well. So really that's what we're kind of busy on. I think I've mentioned previously, to trade, I'm a licensed insolvency practitioner, so I'm dealing with a lot of restructuring inquiries. And again, it's looking at, it all ties in with the cash flow is king. If businesses aren't getting cash flow through, it's unfortunately leading to, I guess, the restructuring and insolvency services. What we are seeing though is a little bit of movement in terms of breathing space being applied for these companies and individuals. Coronavirus Scotland bill has come in that's extended breathing space for individuals up to a period of 6 months. And we look in the next couple of weeks to see what will happen with the companies' assistance for breathing space, where we would see about, essentially up to 56 days where creditors can't take action. But I suppose actually just to, I guess, give a bit of news on what's on the ground, the sheriff courts at the moment are actually not processing anything that is not urgent, and winding up petitions and creditor enforced action they are currently not viewing as priority or urgent. So naturally some businesses have a bit of breathing space at the moment, which is actually welcomed in these challenging times. So so that's really what we've been seeing a bit of on the ground at the moment. Thank you.
Brilliant, thanks Jen, that's great. Okay, Ross, you're up next. Could you unmute yourself and come and introduce yourself and tell us about how things are going with you? No, I can see you unmute yourself and then not hear anything. Maybe pop something in the chat, and if you're having difficulties, and I'll come back to you. But I might just skip over, if that's all right, and invite Stuart Graves just to come in and kind of tell us how he's doing. Stuart.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Sure can, thanks.
Great, thanks for having me again. Just an update to what we're doing. So my name is Stuart. Both me and my business partner Karen work primarily in education. So at the moment our business is completely stopped and looks like it will be until August at the very earliest. So just some of the sources of support that we've been looking into. One is the CBIL, which I know Jen just mentioned there, and she said that they're quite far down the line with some people. So I have just filled in a forum, so they have been in touch with me and asked for some information. So it's good that it's in process. It's good to know that something's happening there for us too. As part of that, I've asked about the early, if we were to pay that back early, because we feel that we are taking this as a kind of safety net moving forward. So a safety net that we hope we won't need to use by the time we come to generating income again. So we've asked if there will be any early repayment charge to it. I know that it's 6 months interest free, but after that, if we want to pay that back, they quoted us for a 6-year repayment. We also have an enterprise finance guarantee loan, which we took out to start our business 4 or 5 years ago. So we're obviously not keen to have 2 sets of loans come out of our business. So we're hoping that there won't be an early repayment charge, but we're waiting to hear back on that. In terms of the EFG, we've also asked if there's been any further information about a repayment holiday for the EFG loan. So still waiting to hear back on that. And the furloughing, we are looking at furloughing both of us as directors and as 2 people who have this as their main job. But part of the challenge there is we're thinking about doing webinars, and Mary McTaggart, who's been on this webinar before, her and I spoke yesterday, and she was a great help to show me how webinars work. So I'm hoping to do something like that to offer to schools whilst teachers are working from home and looking to do some reading or CPD of some description. However, that would, I think, qualify as me promoting my business. So I would not be able to furlough for that period of time. So I'm just trying to get my head around timing, you know, because if we want to promote ourselves to be able to work with schools again in August, I don't want to do it too soon, but I also don't want to leave it right until June or early June, late May, and people have already started to plan for August. So that's what's in my mind at the moment, is furloughing both of us, potentially not furloughing one of us for 1 week, because I know that you can do that as long as there's a 3-week gap in between. So I thought about perhaps this week counting as a week of work to advertise a webinar for 4 weeks time, so that I can then, if that makes sense. So as I say, I'm trying to get my head around it just now, so I'm not explaining that too well. That's probably why, but that's kind of where we are at the moment.
Brilliant, thanks, Stuart. Okay, and Trevor, if you want to come in and just kind of say a few words, that would be great. I can see you're unmuted, Trevor, but I can't hear you.
Okay,
there we go.
Yeah, for hosting again, and I'm Trevor Fenton with Fenton's Commercial Law. I can't access the chat for some reason, so I haven't been able. I don't know if anyone's actually been able to successfully use the chat, but it doesn't actually work for me. At any rate, so nothing's really changed for me in the last week either. I think this crisis sort of caught me and my business at a vulnerable time, because I was just kind of really starting to build my client base, and being a commercial solicitor, it's a relationship based business. It's a kind of business where it's really quite difficult to to build much of a following unless you're meeting people face to face, which clearly hasn't been happening for the last month and change. So I'm still trying to figure out how to how to reorganize the way I do things. But Stuart just having been talking about furlough, and I mentioned furlough being a real problem for owner directors. I was talking about that last week. The problem, I guess, is people talk about what things are going to be like when things come back, and I guess my concern is, and I'm more than concerned, I feel very confident that things won't simply come back, in the sense that you can't just, as a business owner, say, right, I'm going to put my feet up, like the government's telling me if I want a furlough payment, I got to put my feet up. So I'm going to put my feet up, and then suddenly in 3, 4, 5, 6 months time, whatever it is, the bell's going to go, and bang, things will be back, and business will start to flow. But it doesn't work that way, because you don't build a business by sitting back and letting the world come to you. It doesn't work like that in good times. It's also not going to work like that in bad times either. You're out there fishing for business, and to play that analogy out a little bit more, you have to have your hook in the water or you can't catch any fish. The problem is you have no idea how many fish are actually going to be swimming upstream or not. So you turn your back on it, and you lose those opportunities. If you if you don't turn your back on it, you don't get a furlough payment. So where does that leave you? I hear a lot of people in this chat today have been quite busy, and really hopeful for them that it stays that way. For those of us who have seen a real significant fall off, I guess it's just keep churning away at trying to find a different way of getting your brand and your message and your service out there. And best of luck to all of us who find ourselves in that position.
Great, thanks, Trevor. That's fab. And last but not least, Katelyn Murphy, and then I will try Ross again. But Katelyn, do you want to unmute yourself and come in and just give us a bit of an update?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Yeah, so I'm from Interface and Blue Koon Creative, and I think my colleague Annie's already spoken earlier. So basically, we're a web design company. We do a lot of search engine optimization and digital marketing. So we're struggling because a lot of our clients were dentists. I don't know how much Andy mentioned, so they're obviously have to completely stop work now. So that's when they start to cut services, additional services that we provide. So we're just trying to get through that this kind of period, and we're hoping it won't last too long. But the main thing that we're working on right now is our directory that we're making for local businesses to advertise for free if they're doing food deliveries or collections. So really, just if you can share that information, it's www.dundeedirectory.co.uk. So if anyone knows of any businesses that might benefit, it would be greatly appreciated if you could share it.
That's great. Thanks, Katelyn. I see Ross went out and rejoined us, so I'm not sure if Ross, if you want to try and kind of give us a bit of an update. Let's see if we can hear you this time. I know that at a previous webinar, yeah, Ross is as I was just about to say, could people also test the chat, because if the chat's not working, that's not going to give us a very good kind of engagement. But Ross has just put something in the chat to say he's just not managing to kind of get sound going, which is a shame. But so now we've got some time really just for a bit of dialogue and questions, and something that's just struck me actually, and it's maybe well, I think Andy and Katelyn, it would be for you guys maybe to answer this, but Katelyn was just talking there about SEO, and I'm interested if there's been a lot of change in the algorithms. Have people just stopped advertising? Are people that are still advertising still getting decent reach? Do you have any kind of thoughts on any of that? Andy, do you want to maybe go, or Katelyn? Yeah, I'm not sure who's want to answer.
Yeah, it's Andy here. Yeah, I mean, we are seeing quite a lot of noise happening since COVID came on, and Google have changed quite a few things on their end when you're looking in, when you're searching. The way that things are being directed, it seems that a lot of precedence is being given to the likes of services, the NHS, obviously. If you search for anything related to COVID-19, you'll usually get public services before you get any private service. Now, we've not had a lot of updates from the SEO guys from Google recently. They only just came back online last week, the early part of last week, as far as the webmaster chats that we have. And that's basically a Q&A session with the UK's sort of advisor to UK SEOists like ourselves. And they were saying that they're struggling as far as they're concerned, answering all the questions and the support, because all of Google staff are working remotely as well. So they're in exactly the same situation as just about every other business going there. There are no offices open in California, in Ireland, in the UK. So a lot of the support aspect of their business isn't up and running, or it's running at a diminished rate. That said, I mean, we are still having businesses. I know Katelyn mentioned about dental practices struggling earlier because basically they can't operate. We're still seeing dental practices investing in SEO. I think out of the 20 or so dental practice clients that we've had, I think we've had maybe 3 have dropped off, and a couple of them have asked for a reduced service, of which what we've said to them is, we're still carrying on with the service. We're not stopping it. We're going to carry on for you. And you just pay us when you start up again. We'll just keep everything running for you. So I think really the SEO side of it, it's a great time for people to work on the businesses, look and identify the areas within the business that they can actually develop, and take this as, I know it's a very strange word, take this as an opportunity to press the reset button, ready for the restart. There will be a restart, but in the way it restarts, we don't yet know. If, you know, like most of us here, I think most of us will still be here in a month's time, in 2 months' time, in one way or another. A lot of us have cut a lot of costs just through working from home, no travel expenses, for example. So I think most people will get through this. The main thing is just to identify where you can streamline your business at the moment. And that includes whether it's SEO, whether it's marketing. These are often the first things that get cut off, but we're not finding that at the moment. So I hope that's a bit helpful. So.
Yeah, that's really useful. Thanks. And then, I mean, the other thing that I guess takes a number of the others on the call and can maybe come in and talk about is what you're hearing about overseas markets. So, I mean, Jeff, obviously you have got lots of experience in the Middle East, and then we've got Jerry, who's got a significant Scandinavian amongst other areas of the world that he deals with, and then obviously Trevor and Canada. So I just wondered if you would maybe just each come in turn and just tell us if you're hearing anything about, you know, how businesses coped overseas, how they're if they're coming out of it a little bit, and just generally how that feels like it's impacting global trade.
Happily kick off if you want, Alison.
Yeah.
The feedback on the Middle East is obviously people were very much aware that Ramadan was coming up in the short term, another week or so, 10 days maybe. But the enforcement has been fairly acute, very marked, certainly in the United Arab Emirates. That said, in the course of this call, I've had 2 inquiries come in today already, this afternoon, from that area, who want to, you know, very much see how they can be prepared for the post-Ramadan era, which is fine. Oil and gas sector has its own challenges just now anyway with the price issue. But certainly encouraging, positive stuff I'm hearing coming back over this side. So optimistic, not banking on it, but it's nice to know that's there as a potential to come through. But I'd love to hear what other countries are saying too.
Jerry, do you want to maybe just see what you're hearing?
Yeah, just before I came on, I was actually on the phone to a couple of guys in Oslo, and in the company there, and it's quite a big one, they are 2 things. One is they're cutting their costs by looking at salary cuts and requiring everybody to take 10 days holiday over the Easter period, which I found quite funny because most Norwegians take more than 10 days normally anyway. But the other thing is that, like in so many areas, this virus has pushed forward and I hate to use it, but the digital kind of revolution more than the CEOs or the CTOs in the companies. But it's just been the virus has forced everybody to do it. And their work up to now, a large portion of it has been putting people physically onto assets, whether it's ski lifts or ships or offshore units. And they've gone very, very much for doing this remotely. And of course, that's a major disruptor for them, because it means that instead of flying people by helicopter out or driving them out to somewhere, now they're taking cameras with iPads and all the rest of it. And they planned to do that. That was always in the plan, but it's just accelerated it. But it has it's generated kind of a feeling of just kind of holding on to the situation as opposed to guiding it. They feel they're being kind of maybe dragged along, but overall it's actually a pretty positive picture for them, because they were going to do this anyway, and it was becoming technically possible, and now it's just been accelerated through the virus sort of thing. I haven't heard much from China recently, other than the fact that people there are again just getting ready for the future, just trying to do, as somebody mentioned just a moment ago, trying to set things up and to keep talking to their clients, because the pipeline of orders is a pipeline. It doesn't just start when, as Trevor said, that when the bell rings, we all just start again. You know, you've got to keep that pipeline sort of going in some way. So that was what they were doing. So that's what I've been hearing anyway.
Brilliant, great. Trevor, do you want to maybe talk about the countries that you deal with? You're on mute, Trevor.
You have to unmute it 3 or 4 times, it seems.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, it's for me, it's just Canada aside from the UK. And Canada is a couple of weeks behind where the UK is in its experience of this crisis. And that said, it's right next door to the US, which is probably the most chaotic environment in this crisis. So I think they're kind of they're very much wait and see. They're steeling themselves for a horrible credit crunch. So much of it, they are, as a country, they are heavily indebted. The levels of consumer debt in Canada are atrocious. They're much higher than they were at the beginning of the 2008 crisis, and they never had a real estate crash, which the UK and the US very much did have in 2008. They had a little bit of a pause, and then the prices just kept soaring upwards. So they're really, really, really nervous right now, and I think they're also at the same time looking for opportunities of, who else can we do business with in the world other than the US? Having said that, that's been the state of mind in Canada for about 200 years now, and they still haven't managed to sort of, it's kind of like in Aberdeen when the oil industry goes down, people say we need to diversify, and then 2 years later it comes back, and then they don't diversify. And it's it's the same thing in Canada. They've always needed to look elsewhere. They've got many reasons to look elsewhere now, and part of the problem is how do you build those relationships if you're looking to build new relationships, and now nobody's traveling and seeing each other face to face. Video conference is fine for what it does, but it has its limits, and people are going to have to adjust to that way of building new relationships, and they haven't made that adjustment in the last 4 weeks. So yeah, I think they're very much in a holding pattern, trying to conserve cash and just looking for where the chips start to fall. It's not good.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So I don't know. I mean, I've got some more questions, but I don't know if anybody else has got anything that you want to, if you want to jump on and ask anybody a question, then just unmute yourself and please do that. Equally, if you can get the chat to work, then you can drop a kind of a comment or something into the chat. But I was also interested in something that Dan was talking about, and it's been obviously mentioned in something that somebody else said, but Dan, I wonder if you would maybe just comment a bit on, I think every industry that's got quite a lot of service to it, whether it's, that the banks have lots of people in India or others have got, big call centres elsewhere that are all closed. Are you hearing, so for example, like the big networks, are they really struggling with customer service? I know that I've been dealing with Xero today, and they were saying that PayPal are having some issues, as are a couple of the other bank feeds, even just. So, from a technology point of view, and then them trying to deal with all the business interruption loans, I just wonder, if there are some of these big companies and their services that are really struggling. And then, Dan, I wonder if you would maybe also just talk about something that, how are you finding new customers? Are you trying to find new customers, or are they caring about talking to you when they're not dealing with you at the moment and all of that? So Dan, do you want to unmute yourself, if that's okay, and come back on?
Yeah, sure. So the first part of the question was sort of about the networks and their customer service issues. Our main network that we work with is EE. That's where the business was founded 6-7 years ago. It's only been the last sort of 6 months or so that we've really started to work with O2 and Vodafone, so we don't engage with them as much. With regards to EE, definitely they are having issues when it comes to consumer. So consumers are having a lot of trouble, I think, getting through to the right people and getting answers to questions. I think that's kind of across the board with most of the helplines. Any of these phone numbers that you need to try and call, they're skeleton staff and long waiting times, etc. From our perspective, we're quite lucky in that we have a direct relationship with the network. So we, as a third party, almost have a direct line into a certain team within EE, and they're all remote working. So they've moved at the moment to email. So we don't phone them at the moment, it's purely email, but response times are, the SLA is 24 hours for us to get a response to a query. We're getting an email back or an answer within 2 hours at the most, normally about an hour. So it's quite quick. And they've actually just launched this morning, something that they haven't done before. I've not tried to use it yet, but they've now got a business partner specific chat line. So very much like you do for consumer, the little chat boxes in the corner, they've now set that up for their business partners. So that wasn't something that they had before. So yeah, I haven't experienced it yet, but I should imagine that if that's an instant messenger, then sounds great. Just not required it yet today. So I think a bit mixed from our perspective. We're okay. The business partner relationship has been really quite unaffected, but from a consumer point of view, I'm not hearing the same stories. I know my mum and dad have real issues with their Virgin broadband over the last couple of weeks, and trying to get that resolved has been nigh on impossible because they can't speak to anyone. So yeah, a bit mixed. And then the second part of the question was, you'll need to remind me.
Business development. Does anybody want
Yeah.
to talk to you? Are you still trying to talk to people that don't really have a relationship with you?
It's difficult. I suppose when I mentioned a couple of the people that I've spoken to recently about them coming to me about their, reducing costs and things, these are all people that I'd spoken to over previous months. So it has to be said, the last 4 weeks, have I tried to engage anyone brand new that I've not spoken to before? Probably not. These have been ongoing conversations that I've had since joining the business about a year ago. With mobile, it's nearly always the case that you would be much better to stick in your contract until the end and look at it with a month to go or whatever. So if I've engaged somebody 6 months ago, it could well have been that they still had 18 months, 2 years of the remaining contract. So I do try and sort of keep in touch with people and just say, remember, we're here when the time's right. So yeah, it's difficult. I think reaching out to new people, you also have to, do people want to be approached at this time? It's not really a time to be sell. Although our message is very much that we can actually reduce costs, and the majority of the times when we engage a customer, we do bring their bills down and get them a plan that works better for them. But if you've never spoken to them before, it's very unlikely that they'll really listen to that message. They'll just see a new person trying to sell to them. So you do have to be careful with the messaging you go in with as well, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, isn't it? Anybody got any other questions, or am I just going to keep asking them?
I don't have a question, but I just sort of adding on to what Dan said there. It's an interesting problem, isn't it? We're still open for business, and we shouldn't be ashamed of selling things and of selling services and the same goods and services that we were selling before. But it is a terribly difficult dance sometimes, particularly if the service you have to offer or the goods you have to offer are, address a need that's arisen because of the coronavirus problem. It's very difficult not to see mercenary. So exactly how do you find that? Is this just something we're all going to have to get over? And just say, you know what, take a deep breath. You're in business. There's nothing wrong with that. Go ahead and do business and be proud of what you do. Yeah,
and I think you're right, because the longer this goes on, the more we will have to get used to that, won't we? Because, I think it will become less emotionally, attached to all the things that have happened, and everybody will recognise they've got to keep going. But it's difficult, isn't it? It's because we've been talking about this as a network. At what point do we really start encouraging businesses to be looking at recovery? But actually, people are still wondering how to survive. Never mind, kind of. But some people are definitely talking about, pivoting and taking advantage of other opportunities. So. You certainly can't be apologetic for that. That's for sure. I might just, if Jeff wants to come back in a little bit again, I was interested in how Jeff, you were talking about the technology that you had planned for later in the year and how that's all been sort of brought forward. So is that you had systems already that you wanted to implement, or are you doing something totally new?
Well, what's new under the sun? I mean, I think there are systems out there. We've been working along the lines of one, and had thought we'd get the quieter time anticipated. Maybe not as quiet as this, but the quieter time we anticipated over the summer months to fine tune. We have been hosting our online system to some clients, and we have some clients in Qatar and in Hong Kong who were online earlier this year using it. But the scale has to step up. So all that infrastructure surrounding that has to move. And just really to link it back to your previous conversation, as we've come to the conclusion quite clearly, that the normal that we left isn't the normal we're going back to. That it's a whole new lot of normal out there that's going to come. I think that there's a general feeling on our side that we think that people will be used to working from home now, and there'll be a more flexible approach perhaps by some employers into maintaining that work from home. I mean, you can see all the pluses. If you can do it securely for 4 or 5 weeks of lockdown, then do you need the same amount of floor space in the office? Do you need the same resources on site? Maybe it's a little bit of rethinking there as well. So yeah, we're seeing more demand for online courses, obviously, as because of the conditions. But we're just very much bearing in mind that how we convert what our selling point has been, what our hook has been in the past, into a digital format has been the bigger challenge for us, because it's not a straight translation of what works well in a classroom doesn't work well necessarily in an online environment. So all these things racked up say, look, okay, can we convert? Can we find that? Can we upgrade the platform to a suitable scale and resilience? And the big question on that is you get one chance at making a first impression on that part. If you make a mess of it going forward, then it's sunk. I think you have a hell of a road to come back from. So that's been our sort of guiding thoughts in the short term. But it's been interesting. To choose my adjectives carefully, yeah, it's been interesting, but very encouraging noises coming back from our existing clients, and as I say, from a couple of new clients as well. So hopefully that's the way ahead. But we are keeping a real positive attitude on it, Alison. It's all about staying focused on what will be. Forget what was there. How can you adapt? Being agile. I guess that business agility is the key to it.
Yeah, and it is amazing, isn't it, how we've adapted, like Jerry was talking about people just doing things. We've heard of architect firms that are now kind of doing sort of first stage conversations electronically, and then their customers just taking them around the kind of building with technology. And the same with even auditors, so accountants and auditors doing audits of garages by getting their customer to put them on FaceTime and walk around and show them the cars. So yeah, let's hope that we don't go back to our old habits of, well, if we need to meet and discuss things, that we spend half an hour all going to one place and then, spending far too long dithering and then another half an hour on the way back. Yeah, that would be an improvement to my day for sure. Yeah, go for it, Jeff.
One follow-up to that actually is, I don't know if people are aware of it, and we've certainly looked at it, is the Scottish Enterprise Digital Development Fund. And there is money around, admittedly a loan, and I take the point one of the guys mentioned on the call about taking on additional loans. But there's funding between £5,000 and £50,000 to adapt your business or to do things to make your business more suited to the digital age. Now, that might not apply to everybody, but there's opportunities out there, and it's actually really worth, if you get the chance, sit down with somebody like your Business Gateway guys, or if you've got a Scottish Enterprise Advisor or whoever you're talking to, and just find out what the packages are. I know you and I have talked about this before, Alison, the difference between Fife and Tayside, but this is a Scottish Enterprise one which is out there, and it seems a fairly straightforward application as well, just some basic qualifications.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Scottish Enterprise are definitely looking at their whole product range and how do they move money around, because I mean, we were supposed to be in Dubai at the end of this week, so there won't be so many people travelling and getting funding for things like Make It to Market grants. So they take the money out of there and they put it into something that really helps a lot of businesses adapt. So yeah, it's interesting times, isn't it? Okay, so we're kind of coming to the end of our hour, and very interesting chat as it always is. So just a thank you from me, really. Thank you for coming and doing your networking electronically. I hope you were good to yourselves and did bring yourselves a bit of cake or a bit of your Easter egg if you had any Easter eggs left. If you're going to be on the call this evening for our guide to communications, we'll see you there. But otherwise, we've got the Wednesday session and the Thursday session as well this week. So look forward to talking to you online, and maybe we can, I don't know if Teams are having a bit of an issue with the chat, but we'll need to try and resolve that and make sure everybody gets the chance to kind of interact on the chat, because that's often where we get answers from some attendees for other people. So sorry we didn't get a chance to catch up with Ross, but Ross is doing some really interesting things with his business at the moment, is looking at supplying the NHS and some of the other services with some of the PPE and some of the kind of solutions that the medical services are needing. So Ross, I think we've got something up online, but we'll just need to make sure you get the chance to tell everybody about that. But thanks very much for your time, folks. Look forward to catching you next week if you're coming along next week. And we'll see you later on. All right, thank you.